You're now joining the meeting.
Base is running and performing in a way that we expected.
The presenter has muted the audience. You've been muted.
As well as the Apache Tomcat and generic Java server KM, which will monitor the Java stack to ensure that everything is running there as expected. By the way, if you have any questions anytime, let me know. Okay, so basically TrueSight Operations Monitoring. I want to take a look at the TrueSight Self-Health Monitoring KM today. And what we have to do to get everything running is we, well, first of all, have to create a deployment package and get that on the server where we want to monitor the infrastructure. The second step we would do is we would create a policy within TrueSight to start the monitoring and configure the monitoring. And in the last step today, we're going to take a sneak peek into the self-health monitoring, see what it actually provides us. Okay, having said that, let's move on to self-health monitoring. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Hope everybody can see it. Good. The first thing I wanted to show you is that besides the self-health monitoring KM that we provide with the product, we have built-in events that are generated when things occur, like I've simulated that here just now, having a developer console connecting to the patrol agent. And these will generate events, self-health monitoring events, and these events are basically, you can identify them with this little icon here, which is like heart something. Yeah, I'm mentioning that because it is one core part of the product, and it enables us to monitor things while the infrastructure is not working fully. Yeah. The KMs, they need the infrastructure to work, at least in the sense of that the stack works, that we are able to deliver messages. If one component is missing, that is not able to deliver messages, then we're stuck. And this is why we have these internal events. You know, you can configure these internal events. There's the documentation. I'll provide you with the documentation link. You can set up email notification for these events and things like that. That's also provided in the notification link. Okay, so but today we wanted to focus on the TrueSight Self-Health Monitoring KM. So, and as I mentioned, the first thing we have to do is we have to get that KM in, on the system that we want to monitor. And I've got a simple installation. I've got one server which has the TrueSight presentation server on it, and the TrueSight infrastructure management server, and one server which got an integration server on it. And I want to monitor that stuff, so I'm going to create a deployment package for this. Everything is on Linux, on a 64-bit platform. So there are two packages that I need to package and provide on that agent. That is one, the Oracle Java GRE. Yeah, I've got it for Linux and Solaris. And I need the TrueSight Self-Health Monitoring KM. Because it uses Java, we have to make sure that Java is installed on that machine. And the one thing that we have to make sure when we install that stuff is that we have a Java version greater than 1.8. We have that, so we can continue. So I'm going to provide the installation directory, and I call this TrueSight/agent. Cross your fingers that I don't have any typos, else we're going to see nothing. So if you see anything, feel free to stop me. Okay, we have to have the petrol3 directory to create that package. And we have to give that a name. So I'm going to call this TrueSight Self-Health Monitoring for Linux X6. I'm not going to give it a description since it is quite self-describing. I'm going to save this, and we have successfully created that package. Okay, I'm going to close this right now. TrueSight Self-Health Monitoring. The next step we have to do is we have to get that on our agent. And as I mentioned, I've got one agent running out here. This is the Obelix agent. It's got my Tsps and my tsim server running on it. So I'm going to deploy that package on that server. Deploy and install. Okay. So now it is deploying the software on the agent. The next thing that I would have to do is to create policies, infrastructure policies to configure these servers. Yeah. When you load the base package and the extended package for loading the solutions, the BMC solutions, you get predefined policies that you can use to configure these agents. And we're going to take a look at this right now. If you didn't load the policies, the predefined policies, or for whatever reasons they don't show up in this list, yeah, there is a command, yeah, which I'm highlighting right now here, and which is also going to be in the documentation list, on how you can load these predefined policies so that you don't have to create these policies from scratch. Okay, going back to the policies, I am going to edit the Tsps policy, and what you already see with that policy is that it's besides, well, not yet, it doesn't have any TrueSight Self-Health monitoring, but it's also got some base monitoring, like looking at the processes, for instance, the TSPS server, the Postgres database, the Elasticsearch database. So this is already configured in that policy, yeah, as well as some file systems it's going to take a look at. The first thing I have to do is, of course, is to make sure that this policy reaches one of the agents that I want to put it on, in this case the TSPS server, and the name of that TSPS server is obelix.platinum.bmc.com. We want to make sure that we have the right agent. Yes, it finds it. Yeah. And we're going to add the monitoring configuration for the self-health monitoring KM that we just distributed to that agent. TrueSight Self-Health Monitoring. So it's not much that we have to configure here. We have to put in a Java home, and as you saw, we installed Java on that server with the package. So we can take a look and see how far the installation got until now. Actual 3. And we currently don't see yet the GRE. Well, then we'll still have to wait for a moment. Nevertheless, we're going to copy that that directory. I'm going to put it in here, and it's going to be called GRE/64. We have to provide a username. I'm going to use the root user here. And we have to add an environment to configure that. And I'm going to call this environment production, since this is my production server. The host is felix.platinum.bmc.com. The port, I changed that during the installation, so it is 8043. Basically, this is exactly the information I have here in my TrueSight presentation server, so I can validate that. It should be the same. I don't have a tenant, so I'm going to leave this blank, and I'm going to give a user to log in, plus the password. Okay. I could also add some high availability details in case my system is running in high availability mode. It is currently not, so I don't have to fill in the primary and the secondary host IP. Yeah, I have the KM administration tab where I can add some KM specific information. I'm going to change the collector cycles to 1 minute. I don't recommend you to do that, but so that we are able to see something here. And I'm going to press OK. And hopefully I didn't have any typos. And I'm going to close and OK this from here. OK. So we should be fine here. I'm going to save this policy. I haven't enabled it yet, but I want to make sure before I enable it that our package has been deployed. The package deployment seems to be green on that server. Just to make sure, this was confusing me a little bit. So we have the GRE now on the system, so the deployment went fine. So the next thing is what we're going to do is we're going to take the infrastructure policy. It was this one. I'm going to edit it to make sure I'm on the right side, save side, enable it, and save it so that it's going to be distributed to that server. Okay, we saved it. I'm going to the managed devices, and I want to make sure that the configuration has been sent out properly to that agent. So I'm going to go and look at the history of the agent configuration. Here we go. That is about the time that we had. And the important thing is that the self-health monitoring KM is KSM is within our preloaded KMs. So we should also be fine there. Hopefully we don't have any typos in the configuration. Then I'm going to go to my devices. And I have my Oblique server here. And here I have got TrueSight Health for production. And we might have to give it some time for collecting data. But basically, here we have got the TrueSight self-health monitoring KM configured. Okay, while this is still, here we go. So we have got the TrueSight presentation server here. It's starting up, so we're going to see the infrastructure management service that we've got here. And within the TSIMs, the cells, and the integration service, give it some time to discover everything. So we've got all the components that we have here within my small environment. I'll quickly go into the health snapshot, so that we can see some of the parameters. So we've got, for instance, the number of events, the number of devices that we can look at to ensure that the system is running at a healthy speed. Okay.
So Martin, we've got quite a few people on the line, and so for everybody who can hear me, I am deeply, deeply sorry for the audio issues. We are happy to go a little long since we started about 10 minutes late. If people have questions, there's the Q&A window in the WebEx chat. Mike Ashel from BMC is trying to answer questions there, but I'm happy to unmute people to ask questions as well. So if you have a question you'd like to ask via audio, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to just let me know in the chat window, and I will unmute you. Or better yet, why don't I just do this?
The presenter has allowed participants to unmute themselves. You can now unmute yourself by pressing *6.
If anybody jumps on, I want to let you know that we do these webinars every 2 weeks at the same time, and they are recorded. This one I may ask Martin and Mike to re-record just to put up there, but we save them. We save the recordings in communities at the event location and also share the files. Great. It sounds like somebody's on the line with a question. Hello? That's not.
Yeah, I do have a question. This is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Could you go over how you decide which policies to apply to which devices to give you a more resilient self-monitoring perspective, you know, because the whole idea is not only the performance of the system, but also the availability to make sure that when individual components are no longer available for whatever reason, we get the proper alerting.
Yes. So you have the different policies here. You've got policies for the TSPS server, yeah, and this is the one I showed you just now, with, for instance, the processes to ensure that these processes are working, yeah. And you have the policies for the TSIM server. Let me go back. Which has a similar functionality, yeah, where you can look at the J server, the RIC server, the MCell server, and the H server, that these are up and running. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Partially, yes. So you identified the components. So what if scenarios? If TSIM server runs out of file space and just completely locks up, how is messaging going to occur?
If the TSIM server runs up, Mike,
just an example of a catastrophic event.
Sorry, can you hear me? It's Mike here. Sorry, you broke up slightly on the question. Is the question if the infrastructure is down, then effectively how are you getting alerted? Is essentially
right. Well, it's one component of the infrastructure, not the entire infrastructure.
Yeah. So what we've just as a both Martin and I work in the Platinum Engineering, and we're working on a project at the moment about enhancing and improving the self-help monitoring. Now, one of the aspects of that is actually what monitors the monitor. Okay, so effectively, if an event, if a process goes down for instance, and you cannot raise the event, how does the user get notified? So there are a number of ways a number of ways which already exist, as you probably were with email notification as one of the elements of, if a process goes down, you can no longer see an event because the console is down. Then we were looking at mechanisms to notify people externally without the application being up. So we're actually trying to do, which we're actually improving and looking at ways in which we can self-monitor the monitor, but also improve the overall coverage of the whole TrueSight stack. What Martin showed today is part of the project to enhance that capability. So I'm not quite sure if that answers in part, but if you've got specific use cases, then we're more than happy to bring them back into the engineering and look at them particular use cases, because we've listed a number of use cases relating to these sorts of questions, because both Martin and I have been in the field for a while, and we know what customers customer issues. So we're happy to take suggestions or comments, and you can email myself or Martin direct later if you wish.
Okay, thanks.
Hey guys, I've got a few more questions I'd like you to run through. Trond asks if we want the self-monitoring to send us events about TSPS or TSIM being down while either or both is down. How do we best set that up? Was that the same question you just answered? Yeah, it is. It's a notification around. You have to be able to, self-monitor. Within the product, we do self-monitor it. We do include self-monitoring. But again, it is how far you go, because at the end of the day, it's again what's monitoring the monitor. So right. Generally, you can get an email, you can get a text, or through that sort of external process. And that's generally what happens.
Yes. Okay. So as I mentioned, beside the KM that I currently showed, there are built-in events that are sent out, and these can be configured that you can directly get an email or something like that. So it doesn't go through that stack, through the technology stack, if something is broken, because it would not reach us. Yeah.
Okay. Sandra asks, sorry if this was answered already, is it necessary to configure root as the user to set up this monitoring?
No, it's not necessary.
Okay. And Mani asks, is JRE mandatory? They've observed in some customers that they're trying to avoid JRE dependencies.
Well, certain KMs rely on JRE, but is there a specific? Sorry, Martin, you were going to say?
Well, at the end of the day, Java is necessary for the self-help monitoring. Yeah. So I deployed our Java version with that. Yeah. The only restriction that we have is that it must be a version 8 or higher Java version or compatible. Yeah. So you can deploy our version, or you can use a version that is already on that box or applying to the standards of the company you're working for.
Great. Okay. Mike Evans, in response, by the way, to some of the other questions, has said that they have set up separate TrueSight environments, single servers, to be the monitor of monitors. So it sounds like one solution is that he set up just a whole separate instance to monitor the production instance, for example.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to add, I know some customers will effectively just run a patrol agent independently and just load up that particular patrol agent independently of the whole stack, and that patrol agent can obviously then just either send an event direct to email, and you can do it that way as well. But again, it's all part of the bigger picture that we're trying to build to ensure that customers know when there is a failure within the infrastructure, and it's not, you know, we're expanding this, and this self-help monitoring is a project Martin and I are very keen on improving.
Okay. We have a question from Steve. What's the version compatibility for this KM? So is it, you know, 11x, 11.x, 10.7, 10.5?
I think the self-help monitoring came out in 10. The policies, you know, you can look at the policies yourselves, and you can look at, you know, you can certainly download them and import them into your repro.
Okay. Okay. Let me see. All right. That's all the questions I see in the chat window. If anybody else has any other questions they want to ask verbally, please feel free to unmute yourself. Martin, can you just show the last slide, and I'll go ahead and, oh, wait, there's another question from Mike. Can we get a list of the future scenarios? That way we didn't send Mike Evans. Can we get a list of the future scenarios? That way we don't need to send in a list of things that are already in flight. Think error logs, log monitoring for ideation. Do you understand that question, or?
I am not sure.
I think it's go ahead, Mo.
No, go ahead, Michael. I wasn't sure if I understand it.
I think it's provide. I think the ask, and certainly the ask is from Michael as well, is that is twofold. One is that we in BMC are looking to improve self-help monitoring, and to answer some of the other questions which are coming in as well, is that we want to automate this as much as possible. Okay, so what Martin showed you today is part of that automation which already exists, and then the plan then is to then increase the automation. So in answer, you know, things like, you know, well, what do we need to check for in the logs, etc., and whether that's, you know, whether that, if a customer's got ITDA and they want to use a, you know, a standard supplied content pack, or whether or not they want us to supply a log KM with predefined search criteria, that is where we're going on this. So, I mean, Michael, if you want us to have a one-to-one call or whatever, then more than happy to help. To instigate that.
Okay, he says he'd love a call, so I'll take that as an action item to help facilitate that, the Michael to Michael connection. All right, so Martin, can you give me that last slide if you would? So again, well, I'll stop apologizing for technology issues. It happens. I'm going to post this deck that Martin has here with the links in it to the communities page where this event was listed. There are some links in here to some content, YouTube videos, and some other documentation. You can email me directly, Seth_Paskin@bmc.com, if you have any questions or concerns. I will post the recording of this to the communities page as well, as soon as I'm able to convert it, and assuming the WebEx quality is sufficient. If not, as I mentioned, I'll see if Martin and Michael wouldn't mind re-recording it. In any case, thank you again for attending. There is a link in the communities page to our calendar of events. We do this every 2 weeks, so please feel free to sign up to register for notifications. And for those of you who attend, we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Thanks, Michael.